How's it going, people? I'm Zephyros. Welcome back to my channel. Today's going to be a hero spotlight on Valeriya. She's currently on the banner alongside Brokir. I'm hoping that a lot of you have managed to actually pull her, and hopefully this guide will show you where she can be used and how best to build her. So let's get into it. So if you have managed to pull Valeriya, or if you've had her for a while and you've just never been sure whether you should build her, whether she's worth kind of dedicating the resources into building, quite frankly, the answer is yes. She is worth putting putting your resources into her because there are so many different areas of the game where she's just usable. She's so good. You can use her in obviously Guild Boss 1, Drake's Chasm, Void Drift, Void Drift Epilogue, Single Target Arena, Gear Dungeon 2, Artifact Material Raid, Faction Trials. There's so many areas. Like I've put out an AMR 18 video, I've put out a Gear Dungeon 2 video, Void Drift Epilogue. I've put out videos on this where I actually showcase how useful Valeriya is. So watch those videos if you haven't seen them already. But there are so many areas of the game where she does things that not many other heroes can do. The way she's able to keep herself alive during her ultimate, to just dish out a ton of damage. It's there's not many heroes who offer what she offers, as a fighter. So really, really useful kit, right? So let's start off by looking at her stats, right? So pretty solid amount of base HP for a fighter, 25, close to 26k. Obviously, mine is A5, so she does have she's got slightly better stats in terms of attack and stuff like that. But 26k HP is really easy to make her chunky enough to be able to take a hit. Then on the attack, close to 6,500 attack after her A2. Really healthy amount of attack, so pretty easy to build her. She's got really forgiving stats. Then she's actually got 8% built into her kit. Super useful. It actually makes it much easier to build her in sets where you only need four pieces with crit rate, and then you can just get like a set like this, for example, that doesn't have crit rate, but you've got four other more useful stats now. So it makes it much easier, right? Um, and then just the other usual stats. I think she's 2.6, yeah, 2.6 base attack interval, which is pretty standard for a fighter. And with just as yeah 13 rage region and auto, so these the rest of it is actually pretty standard. 17 cost, which is pretty good, and that's actually reduced in arena, so it means you can deploy her much quicker, which is why she's so good in places like single target arena. So yeah, her stats are really good, really easy to build her out. So now let's go into her abilities, right? So she is dual faction, chaotic and nightmare. And so as a result, parts of her kit rely on her actually having lower HP. So pairing her with people like Carnelian with Jasomi, really useful. So her talent increases attack and defense based on lost HP up to 60% at 30 HP. So 30% HP. So she's already got really good base attack, right? And then when you get her down to 30% HP, if you let her just drop down to that level, she's going to be getting up to 60% extra attack, which is crazy. Like it's a massive, massive boost. So if you're able to keep her at those optimal levels, of those lower levels, which people like Dasomi and Carnelian can do, she becomes just an absolute DPS machine, right? So her basic attack, pretty standard. After skill up, deals 120% damage to one enemy. Right, so fairly straightforward. Then she's got a plunging slash, which is basically it extends her range by one tile. Oh, sorry, got something caught in my throat there. Normally she's got a one tile range, but then in her ultimate she's able to hit that extra tile, right? And when she does it, she slams much harder. So she does 30%, 300% extra damage, 300% damage, and she inflicts 20% vulnerability. So she's just hitting that much harder after this attack. Um, and she reduce and every time. So this attack, it's not a specific attack; it's a passive attack. It's on basically a second auto attack where it's on a cooldown. Every 20 seconds she'll do this, but every time she does a basic attack during her ultimate, it reduces the cooldown. Right, so it cools it down by 3 seconds. So after basically like 6 hits, she's going to do it again because obviously time has been going while she's been doing her hits, and then she will also you'll get the reduced cooldown. Right, so it will actually work out like every 5 hits she'll do it. Then her next one, Will of Steel. So when she drops below 30%, she'll start restoring her own HP by 6% every second. Right, so she's got her own self sustain in there. And if she's in her ultimate, and part of this passive is if she's in her ultimate and she takes fatal damage, she'll basically go into an unyielding state, right? She will not die until the ultimate finishes. This is what makes her so useful in places like Gear Dungeon 2, in places like um, the epilogue, the Void Rift epilogue, right? Because she's able to just dish a ton of damage out, regardless of how much damage she's taking, because of that unyielding. And because she's already in that state of being dead, she's doing this boosted attack. So she's just chucking out so much damage. It's crazy. And then this is the. Sorry, guys. As you can see, I'm still recovering from a bit of a cough. So I do apologize if I do cough a little bit. But yeah, as you can see, yeah, she's got that reduced arena cost, which is great for deploying. And then we'll look at her ultimate. Okay, so her ultimate is basically an enhanced basic attack, right? So this is why she is so good in Infernal Roar, because it directly boosts her damage by 40%. So her ultimate basically damage increases her damage by 120%. Each attack, she basically consumes a part of her HP, and she stacks something called Power of the Sword, right? So this is basically at the end of her ultimate, she's going to chuck out a ton of burst damage, right? So um, we'll read into the skill and then I'll go back to the Power of the Sword, right? So hero cannot be healed during the skill. When the skill ends, deals 440% burst damage to the main target and 4 people around, right? So she's basically storing up this energy right at the end of her ultimate. She's going to slam 440%. But every single time she's doing an attack and losing 10% of her HP, she's adding an extra 50% damage. So if you can get these full 8 stacks, she's basically just throwing out an extra 400% damage. So this can go up to 840%. And then her awakenings start adding more into this. Okay, so she can deal a ton of damage during her ultimate. But the key to this is you have to really time when you do Valeria's ults. Because of this bit here where she can't be healed, there are loads of areas of the game where she will just be basically KO'd if she's taking damage. So you have to time her ultimates really well. There are ways around it. So if you put her in artifacts like the Lunacy Visor and stuff, she will start healing herself up through that. But she can't be healed during. She can't be healed with anything else, right? So now we'll go into her awakenings, right? So her A1 during the ultimate increases her attack speed by 100. So this is great because then she's going to start racking up those power of the swords a lot more. Then her A2 increases attack by 5%. Amazing. Just adding extra attack is always a good thing. This A3, really good. During the ultimate, ignores 20% of the enemy's defense. As if her attack isn't high enough, she's now ignoring more defense. She's hitting that much harder. This is where her 8% crit rate comes in. So that 8% that I showed you earlier, that is from her A4, okay? That's what makes it easier to build her. Um, and then her A5, 50% chance to accumulate 2 stacks every time. Instead of that 1 stack every time she does attack, there's a 50% chance that she's going to rack 2 up instead. And it also increases the limit. So instead of 8 stacks for a total of 400% increased damage bonus, you can now get a total of 600% damage bonus, taking it up to over 1,000% burst damage, which is crazy. The numbers Valeria can put out are crazy. Just look at some of the videos I've already put out on where I use her. You'll see the damage that she can do. She's such a good hero. Um, so so obviously her awakenings are really, really useful. Now the artifact I've got her in, I don't use Valeria in any PvP. I use her in PvE, right? So I don't need her in top tier. So really and truly, you'd put her in something like a Wailing Skull, or put her in a Lunacy Visor if you want her to be able to get some heals in there. If you want a bit of survivability, you could put Kia the Forsaken. But really and truly, I would say first choice is going to be Wailing Skull. But Flux Pendant is actually, as an easily obtainable artifact, it's actually pretty good because it synergizes well with her kit, right? So when HP drops below 50%, it will double this increase. So she gets an increase of crit damage of 30%, which go up to 60% if she's below 50%. And if you're using her right and building her how she should be built and kind of running her where she's in that like good window of like 30% HP, she's going to be constantly she's going to have constant uptime on this, right? So 60% crit damage is always going to be a nice bonus, right? But like I said, I only do this because it's good enough for the PvE content that I use her in. Um, and then in terms of gear, again, because I only use Valeria in PvE, the threshold that I need for her attack is not that high. So 20k attack is more than enough, but you can build her way, way higher. I've got her in 2 crit damage pieces, right? But both of these are crit damage pieces, and then 1 attack, and then attack, obviously Warlord set. So decent build, but it could be so much better, but I don't need her better, which is why I don't bother, right? You could easily, if you put these in 3, you could be pushing 25k without even sweating. Um, in terms of her attack, I wonder if I've got any spare ones. Look, if I just put her in attack pieces comfortably, 26.3, no problem, right? But I just don't need her in those pieces, which is why I have her in crit damage sets. I'll put her in that, seeing as I'm not using it anywhere else. But let's see which one. Crit rate. I'm going to overcap her on the crit rate. Oh no, that'll do the job. There you go. So we're still so yeah. This is how I build mine, but you can go much crazier with the attack and deal probably more damage, but you don't need to. That's the beauty of all the places where I use Valeria. This build is more than capable of doing the damage that I need her to do. Right. So that's how I run it. So if you're going to be using her in the same place that I use her, then this is more than good enough, and it's great because it means you're not taking too many attack percentage pieces from other heroes who might need it more. Like your Valks or your Ardeas, those kind of heroes who also shine in Infernal Roar. But there aren't actually that many where Infernal Roar is the clear-cut best choice, but Valeria is one of those heroes, right? So yeah, that is my take on Valeria. I think she is an incredible hero. I think she is definitely worth building. And hopefully, now that you've seen this video, you kind of have a better idea of where you can use her and how to build her. So until the next video, I'll catch you guys soon. Stay blessed.